On December the 20th, 2024, we fans of 1980s animation lost someone that I think it's fair to say impacted all of our lives one way or another. An actor that may not have had the same body of work as numerous others, at least in the animation industry, but one that was given an incredibly special role, one that he absolutely excelled in. I am of course talking about John Erwin, the voice of the most powerful man in the universe, He-Man. It's actually hard to put into words how much his performance as He-Man influenced and entertained an entire generation. The warmth that many associate with Filmation's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe can be attributed to John Erwin's performance as the titular character. As a kid, seeing the voice actor credits at the end of every episode of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and She-Ra Princess of Power always fascinated me, especially given that there were so few actors and yet so many characters. As I've mentioned on this channel before, growing up in the 1980s, consuming all those wonderful cartoons, it was always lovely to hear familiar voices pop up in other productions. However, those familiar tones of John Erwin, those were quite the rarity. We often think of the man as being prevalent with regards to his work in animation, but the truth is, John Erwin only ever really dipped his toe into the world of voice acting. It just so happens that one of the roles he took on in 1983 turned out to be one of the most important animated heroes of the decade. All that said, going back to those early days of enjoying He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and She-Ra Princess of Power, we had no idea which actor voiced which character. Over here in the UK, the video collection company actually put the voice actor credits on the cover. Even back then I took notice, as I felt that the company were highlighting the talent. Of course, it wouldn't be until The Secret of the Sword was released theatrically that we could finally see which actor voiced which character. John Erwin, the voice of He-Man. From that moment on, for me, that name would always be associated with the most powerful man in the universe. Years later, I would come to learn, or should that be uncover, the fact that in 1981, when Filmation animated the Castle Grayskull commercial for Mattel, John Erwin was not the initial voice for He-Man.
We must stop his evil power! To Grayskull!
Alan Oppenheimer voiced both Man-at-Arms and Skeletor, though very differently to what he would do in the series, and Linda Gary voiced Teela, but it was actually Burr Middleton that voiced He-Man. This was primarily due to the fact that in 1981, Oppenheimer, Gary and Middleton were the voice cast for Filmation's Shazam, and so they were almost definitely asked to record the sparse dialogue required for the commercial due to convenience. When it came to the actual series though, Lou Scheimer wanted a very specific voice for He-Man, John Erwin. There's absolutely no doubt that Lou's selection for John was influenced by the actor's earlier role as Dick Tracy.
Calling Dick Tracy.
Tracy here, go ahead, Chief.
Flat Top has broken jail.
Flat Top out? Well, that means his worldwide crime organization will come to life again.
In an interview with Andy Mangles, Lou Scheimer recalled that he really had to sell John Erwin on the idea that he could voice He-Man, but somewhat concerning for Lou, he wasn't sure that John could perform the role of Prince Adam, given that the character is supposed to have a far higher register than He-Man. It did not take long for John Erwin to convince Lou that he could voice both He-Man and Prince Adam. I personally find it interesting when going back and viewing the first 18 episodes of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe produced. Now, I don't mean the first 18 episodes in production code order, but the actual first 18 episodes produced. These ones. In a majority of these episodes, John Erwin is still very much finding the voice for He-Man. Don't get me wrong, it's a great heroic performance, but the warmth and heart of the character isn't nearly as pronounced as it would be as the series progressed. At times, it actually sounds like He-Man is shouting when delivering his dialogue.
It's Skeletor. He's using Beastman and Trapjaw in a plan to take over Eternia.
When John Erwin found the voice, it was, simply put, utter perfection.
In short, courage means having principles.
and sticking to them, no matter what. See you all again soon.
Lou Scheimer recalled that within a short space of time, John Erwin felt very deeply about the responsibility of being He-Man, and that he really put his heart and soul into bringing all of these wonderful characters to life. Like many talents of 1980s animation, he did not simply read lines from a page. Each and every piece of He-Man's dialogue was infused with a wealth of strength, warmth, kindness and humour.
Keep hanging in there, Trapjaw. No, don't say anything. You might lose your grip. Anyway, I think I know how you feel. Shall we go inside?
John Erwin understood who He-Man was, and whatever emotion was required by the scene, he absolutely delivered. One side effect John Erwin's performance actually had was on the writers. I've stated before that when the earliest scripts were written, the writers had no idea as to how these characters would sound. A majority of the writers and most of those at Filmation working on the production of the show were surprised by Skeletor's high register, given that in the previous animated commercial, Alan Oppenheimer had performed a low, almost guttural voice for the Lord of Destruction.
Defeat He-Man's forces, but leave him to me.
Colossal will capture Grayskull, and I'll be there to watch.
As a result, the writers began writing with that Skeletor voice in their heads, somewhat lessening the harder edge that Skeletor initially possessed.
Yes, because they're bugging the big bones out of me. Did you see that? The stuff's all over the place.
The same can be said for He-Man. With John Erwin's performance, the most powerful man in the universe possessed far more heart than he was initially written with.
Uh-huh. Next time Skeletor does something wrong, we'll send him to your room.
My room?
From what Man-at-Arms tells me, your room is such a mess that Skeletor would never find his way out.
All right, I'll go clean it up right now. Want to help me?
Glad to, my little friend.
Simply put, as the voices evolved, so too did the writing. John Erwin, in his live-action roles, was often using his natural speaking voice. So to this day, it always fascinates me that such a plethora of comical voices could come out of this man. For an example of his range, I've edited together a collection of voices. Remember though that this edit does not feature all of his voices, it is mainly a demonstration of the man's range.
But you don't impress me. Someday I'll show you what power really is. My plants and I have slept for years. Now we waken to claim Eternia. I see you decided to bow after all.
Thank you, Otto. Your magic is excellent, but I wonder if mine still works. I'm not stupid. No. But I am kinda slow.
The sorceress is mine to command. Mortal, I am evil itself.
Soon you'll be in the hands of Skeletor, and I will be a rich man.
Take these as a gift. You know, one wizard to another.
I am Aramesh. I have come for the secret thing.
Even your jokes begin to suffer the effects of the cold. Soon we will all be forced into the sleep of hibernation.
Oh, thanks. I needed that.
Horror! There are just too many of them to fight. And besides, I knew you'd want to hear the good news.
With our singer gone, nothing can stop Yorg should he awaken.
Who dares to invade my home, put out my fire, and steal my magic?
Son, when King Randor appointed me royal historian, it was a great honor.
Well, I'm glad you did, old buddy. Without Battle Cat, He-Man would be a lonely fella.
Later, I pulled myself out of the rubble. My legs were paralyzed. I would never walk again. But I was one of the lucky ones. Many didn't come out at all. Yes, Merman captured her and hid her away in the coral caverns. Thanks for your help, He-Man. You saved the kingdom and probably all of Eternia.
Even though Skeletor is my enemy, I couldn't allow him to perish. I believe in the sanctity of all life, even Skeletor's.
Yeah, it's time for him to be our messenger boy. That jeweler's gold should rightly belong to a nobleman. And who's the most noble man I know? Why, me, of course. Time for me to go. No one helps Tychons except Skeletor, but then he makes us sick. Sick, sick, sick. I'm so sleepy. But Evil Lynn told me you'd like the surprise. Then you and Gleedle can both stay in my dungeon forever.
I trust, Orko, that Toadie has told you about her father's old friend, Rago?
As you will, He-Man. Now walk the plank.
Well, no one has been inside, but it is said that when the evil times come, and a fighter for good is needed, the castle of Grayskull will open its great drawbridge.
I never got a chance to thank you for saving me earlier today.
You underestimate yourself. Think of all you've done. You are ready to begin a new challenge. Take your rightful place.
I am of a race much older than yours, a race that has long since shed the fragile shell of a physical body.
Years ago, your adopted father was making his way through the evergreen forest. He had received a strange psychic signal.
Well, like I told Orko, I'm just a hermit. I haven't had company in 100 years. Or is it 200? Well, I don't know. It's been a long time. So what can I do for you?
That's right. Glad to meet you. Wow, what's your name?
It's incredibly hard to showcase every single wonderful performance from the man, but here are a couple of my favourite pieces of delivery from John Erwin.
Young Man-at-Arms had driven off Merman and made his way to the falcon's nest. Inside the nest was a baby girl. It was the sorceress's young daughter. With the passing of her husband, she had brought the child to the mountain to raise her in peace. But after Merman's attack, the falcon knew that without a real home, the baby would never be truly safe. The young warrior's heart went out to the child, and he promised to care for her all his days. You are that child, Teela.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I'm just tired, Cringer.
But you're He-Man!
Yeah, he never gets tired. But Prince Adam does. It's always study this, learn that. I'm tired of it.
Well, I'm tired of being Battle Cat, but as much as I hate to say this, I'm sure glad he's around when we need him.
I know, old friend. You're right. I'd just like to take a break for a while. Do something relaxing for a change.
Me too, but what about Teela?
Don't worry, I'll say something to her. In the meantime, why don't we use this nice shady spot for a nap?
Now you're talking. Today I broke a promise and proved myself unworthy the great power that was given me. And if I am unworthy, I can no longer permit myself to be He-Man. Let the power return!
I fear that there will be war soon between your people and my dragons.
What?
Couldn't you stop them?
Regrettably, no. They have not fought in a war for a long time, and they have forgotten what it's like. They have forgotten the pain, the darkness, the madness that is war. And now, without my magic, I am not able to stop them.
Both the He-Man and She-Ra cartoons were blessed with a surprisingly small but incredibly talented voice cast. John Erwin, Linda Gary, Alan Oppenheimer, an uncredited Norm Prescott, Erica Scheimer and Lou Scheimer carried the He-Man series, with Melindy Britt and George DiCenzo and later Diane Pershing joining the cast for the She-Ra series. In recent years, in many interviews, both Melindy and Alan talk incredibly favourably about not only working with John Erwin, but also their continued friendship with the man. In an incredibly heartfelt eulogy, Melindy compared John's passing as to that of losing an actual brother. Such was the bond that she had, voicing He-Man's twin sister.
Looks like Hordak has retreated to Beast Island.
We're a good team. We should do this more often.
We will. But for now, I've got to get back to Eternia. Goodbye, sis. Till we meet again.
Goodbye, dear brother.
Going back to my experiences, the 1980s passed and the internet arrived at my house in late 1995. Soon after, I stumbled upon the He-Man and She-Ra community. A year or so into the community really beginning to come together was the creation of the Masters of the Universe mailing list. I would always try to email every day, and sometimes I would send out gifts, images and audio of things that a majority of the He-Man and She-Ra fanbase had yet to see. It was during this time that I was finally able to put a face to a name, or so I thought, as I saw John Erwin on screen for the very first time. A very brief appearance in the movie Babe.
And welcome back to the National Grand Challenge Sheepdog Trials, coming today from the King Smith Showground in the heart of sheep country.
I was so excited by this brief cameo that I captured the audio and emailed it to the aforementioned mailing list. But here's the thing, it was John Erwin's voice, but the man on screen wasn't him. So obviously John was hired to dub the voice in order to give the commentary team in the film an international flavour. I was also a big fan of Seinfeld in the 90s, and on occasion John Erwin could be heard as the sports announcer, though his name did not appear in the credits. In 1999 I finally saw John Erwin on screen for the very first time when my dear friend Lee Clevenger, we'll come back to him shortly, sent me an instructional video for the internet featuring John Erwin. Those vocal tones were unmistakable. One of my favourite John Erwin appearances that materialised was this commercial with Gary Coleman for Hallmark cards.
We're asking our panel of experts what they think of our Valentines this year.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Wanda.
Wanda who?
One wish you a happy Valentine's Day. Who makes these Valentine's cards, Mr. Erwin?
Well,
I know. Hallmark.
That's right, Hallmark. And you know what they always say.
It is widely known that throughout his career, and especially post-career, John Erwin maintained a low profile, stating that he wanted He-Man to only ever be recognised by the muscle-bound character on screen, and not by the voice actor. Lou Scheimer stated that even as far back as voicing Reggie in the Archie series, although an extraordinary talent, John Erwin was bashful. I never got to meet John Erwin myself, but my dear friend Lee Clevenger, he was good friends with Lou Scheimer, and Lou invited Lee and a select few other fans to the Filmation reunion in late 2002. Lou had made Lee aware that John Erwin was attending that night, and Lee recalled being incredibly nervous, remarking to Lou, "I don't even think I will recognise him." Lou assured Lee he would make sure he knew when John arrived. Sure enough, Lee watched as Lou made his rounds, chatting with various people before slowly, very deliberately, making his way back over to Lee with a mischievous look on his face. Lou Scheimer leaned into Lee and said, "That's him in the corner," then abruptly glided away. Lee approached John, who was almost startled to be recognised, praising his work. and John entertained Lee by performing his Prince Adam voice. Cringer, we just ate. Lee said that the actor had not missed a beat and the voice was perfect. John was happy to take a photo with Lee, and to this day, that particular photo continues to be the most recent image of John Erwin to be seen. John Erwin's final role was voicing He-Man once more in an episode of Family Guy, an appearance that shocked many of us at the time.
Hey there, Adam.
Hello, Henry.
I have the power!
He had previously made a cameo in a rather unique place as the voice of the Battle Sound He-Man figure from the Masters of the Universe brand reboot in 2002. John Erwin was invited to numerous conventions over the years but always politely declined, something we all begrudgingly respected. I did hear from time to time that he was more than aware and thankful of how much people loved his work, especially in his role as He-Man. John Erwin's death was not announced until January the 31st, 2025, 42 days after his passing. Unsurprisingly, the outpouring of love, not only from the He-Man and She-Ra fans, but from fans of 1980s cartoons in general, was rather incredible to behold. I cannot end this video without showcasing one of my favourite pieces of He-Man dialogue, and uniquely, it actually comes from a moral segment. What I love so much about this is that it is the perfect coming together of a great script, appropriate visuals, and just a phenomenal performance from John Erwin.
Sometimes movies and television adventure series like this one make it seem as though shooting a gun, fighting, and taking chances are fun and exciting things to do. And what's more, the good guys never get hurt. But in real life, people do get hurt, even killed when they fight or use guns. Make-believe can be fun, and there's nothing wrong with imagining great adventures. But never forget that when it's the real thing, someone can get hurt. Even the good guys. Even you.
As I said, I never got to meet the man, but that voice that continues to bring so much joy into my life makes me feel like I knew him, if only a little. Rest in peace, John Erwin.